Do the Baltimore Ravens have the most underrated skill position group in the NFL by far? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time I upload a brand new video. But in this video today, I'm going to be talking about the Ravens skill position players because I think they're pretty good. But I also see zero recognition from this from the national media, from Twitter, from basically anybody outside of, being a Ravens fan. And so I'm going to be talking about that in today's video. So, make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below and just really the overall idea. Where do you think the Baltimore Ravens skill position players rank in the NFL? So, what are skill position players? Running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Not quarterback, not offensive line, not fullback, just the players that get the ball from the quarterback, basically. And with this video, with me saying that they are drastically underrated, I'm not saying they're the best. I think the best, without a doubt in my mind, is the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think anybody has a better core than them. They have the best running back in the NFL, in my opinion. I would say a top 3 tight end. And they have a top 3 wide receiver core in the NFL. They have 2 number 1 wide receivers. 2, 1, I don't know how to put that up. In Debo and Ayuk. So I'm not trying to say the Ravens are the best. That is not the case that I'm trying to make in this video. But I looked up an article because really I was just thinking of ideas to talk about. And I was like, Ravens, just overall core. I talk about the wide receivers. I talk about, the running back room. I talk about the tight ends. But I never talk about them all together. And I was like, I never see anybody talk about it. So I looked up. I was like, top skill position cores in the NFL. And I found this article. Now, I will say, this article is from sportsillustrated.com. It is from March 24th. It is an outdated article. This is not fully updated. But even at March 24th, I still think the Ravens would at least be average. Now, this is the top 15 in the NFL. And I'm going to scroll through here. And I'm going to read off the players. All right. 49ers at 1. No problem there. Eagles at 2. I would agree with that. The Bengals at 3. I would probably agree with that as well. The Dolphins at 4. I can see that. The Vikings at 5. This is when they still had Dalvin Cook. With Dalvin Cook, I agree. The Raiders at 6. Jaguars at 7. Chiefs at 8. Bills at 9. Seahawks at 10. Saints at 11. Falcons at 12. Buccaneers at 13. Bears at 14. And Packers at 15. Where are the Ravens? The Ravens didn't have Odell at this point. They didn't have Zay Flowers. But if you're going to have the Kansas City Chiefs sitting, where were they, 8? That is laughable. Because the Chiefs are on there because Travis Kelce is there. That's the only reason. MVS isn't good. Sky Moore isn't good. Kadarius Toney isn't good. Isaiah Pacheco is, I would say, below average. So, that is one player carrying that entire group, and they are number 8. And then you look at the Baltimore Ravens, and you're like, okay, what is their skill position? And at this point, now obviously we've added Odell Beckham Jr. I would assume that the Ravens would end up making this list. But I don't think they'd be very high. I think if they made this list, they'd throw them at 13 or 14 or something like that. But you look at the Ravens wide receiver core, and you look at their tight end core, they have Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a top 3 tight end in the NFL almost unanimously now. I think there's biased Raiders fans that would disagree, and they love Waller. But now he's gone, so maybe they don't disagree anymore. But they used to always be like, Waller's top 3. And it was like, no, he's not. He's arguably top 5, but he can't stay healthy. Really, you have a top 3 tight end in Mark Andrews. Then you have a very solid running back in J.K. Dobbins, above average. Again, when I talk about J.K. Dobbins, I'll make probably a top 32 running back tier list rankings at some point in the offseason. I'm excited to do that video. I'm going to do tier list for every single position. Shout out to my boy Mike Defran for that inspiration because he's done them. They're fun videos to watch. I enjoy them. So I will be doing those. But That'll come out. I'll get my exact ranking for J.K. Dobbins, but I typically think of him around 12th best in the NFL. Again, I'm not trying to overrate him. I'm not trying to underrate him. I think that's about where he goes. So, like an above average running back, a top 3 tight end, and then a wide receiver core. It's not the best. But I mean, they also have Isaiah Likely. They also have Gus Edwards. So they have good backups at running back, and they have good backups at tight end. And then the wide receivers, like they have Rashad Bateman, who's decent. They have Nelson Aguilar, who's a good role player. Do people say that in the NFL? In the NBA, it's huge, but like he's a role player. He's a good receiver that can play in the NFL. He's proven that he can play. And then you have, Devin Duvernay, you have James Proche, and then obviously now they've added Odell and they've added, Zay Flowers, and it's like, okay, the Ravens should easily be top 8. Like, if you want to compare them to the Chiefs, who are sitting at 8 on this list, the Ravens are much better. Now, is Travis Kelce the best person in all of those rooms? Absolutely. I don't think Mark Andrews is anywhere close to Travis Kelce. I don't think really any tight end. Maybe you could argue George Kittle, if you're in a run-heavy scheme, would be better for that scheme than Travis Kelce would. I'm not going to hate on that take. But I mean, you look at the Jaguars. The Ravens are better than the Jaguars. Calvin Ridley, who I like. Christian Kirk, who I like. Evan Ingram, decent tight end. He's a top 10 tight end. Travis Etienne, maybe a top 10 running back. And Zay Jones. I think the Ravens are clearly better than that. I don't think it's very close. Now, if Ridley comes back, and he hasn't played in like 2 years. If Ridley comes back and is the player he was pre-injury, okay, maybe it's close. But I think the Ravens are pretty clearly better. Then you look at the Raiders. The Raiders, similar to the Ravens, have 2 players that are good. Like, that are seen as very good, right? You have Devontae Adams, who I think is a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, and then you have Josh Jacobs, who I drastically think that Josh Jacobs is overrated. I'm very on the Josh Jacobs is overrated train. When you guys see my running back tier list video, I will talk about that. I don't think he's that good. I think he's a fringe top 10 running back in the NFL. Legitimately. I think he's heavily overrated. But again, had a great season last year, so I'm not trying to discount it. At number 6, I think that's fine. But they don't have a tight end. Like, they have Michael Mayer, who I think is going to be a stud, but rookie tight ends very rarely produce. It's the rarest position in the NFL to have a good rookie tight end. Hunter Renfrow is meh. Jacoby Myers is meh. The Ravens can absolutely compete with that. I don't know if they're necessarily better, but they can compete. The Vikings, I think the Vikings are better than the Ravens, even though the Minnesota Vikings lost Adam Thielen and they lost Dalvin Cook. I think Justin Jefferson is a top 2 receiver in the NFL. And TJ Hawkinson is a top 5 tight end in the NFL. I think he's number 4. If I was doing a tight end ranking, he'd be after Mark Andrews. And then they do have Jordan Addison, who I think currently is just about, if not a little bit better than Zay Flowers. So, I think it's very close, but I think the Vikings will be better because Justin Jefferson is that good. The Dolphins, I think that's when you start to see a gap between the Ravens, because you look at the Dolphins, it's like, okay, maybe the best receiver duo, or at least a top 3 wide receiver duo in the NFL, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Running back, I love Devin Achane for that offense. I think he's going to go absolutely crazy. And I think that's good enough. I don't think they need an elite tight end. I think that's how good everybody else is. Like the Bengals, I don't think the Ravens are close to. I don't think the Ravens are close to the Eagles. I don't think they're close to the 49ers. So again, this video isn't me trying to say that they're the best in the NFL. But like, the fact that they get no recognition for having a very good skill position group, because just about every single one on this list is based around the wide receivers. Every single one. The Seahawks are at 10. The Saints are at 11. The Falcons, they're at 12. The Buccaneers, they're at 13. The only one out of those that isn't based on wide receivers is the Falcons. Like, the Buccaneers is there purely because of wide receivers. They don't have a good tight end. They don't have a good running back. But they make it because they have 2 good wide receivers. The Ravens have 4 good football players at the skill position room. One is top 3 in his position. So, I think it's very clear that the Ravens wide receiver room, in combination with the other skill positions, has become the most underrated skill position room in the NFL because nobody talks about it. And it's this assumption every year with the Ravens where it's like, oh yeah, but the skill positions aren't that good. Lamar doesn't have any help. They got so much help this year and they get no credit. And now that is a good thing for the Lamar Jackson MVP case. But it's a bad thing when you're just looking at overall rankings and people talking in the media. When we've seen people talk about Bateman and like mispronounce his name. They're like, well, they got that Batman kid over in Baltimore, or that Rayshad kid over in Baltimore, and you're like, dude, do you even know what you're talking about? I think people very quickly are going to realize how good this room is. It doesn't have to be the best. They have Lamar Jackson. He elevates that. But it's going to be top 8. And I would expect it's top 5 this year. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts. What do you think about the Baltimore Ravens skill position room? Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.